Hey guys, welcome back to Queen of Quirk. In this video I'm going to be sharing with you my experience in applying to the dual BA program between Trinity College Dublin and Columbia University in New York City. Along the way I'll be answering some questions some people have asked me over the past while, and I guess sharing some tips for the application process. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Jane. Nice to meet you. I have just finished my second year at Trinity, and because I'm in this program it means that was my last year at Trinity, and the next half of my university experience will be spent at Columbia University, or hopefully at Columbia University. I am majoring in English. I am from Ireland as well, so I guess some aspects of my experience of the application process for this will be different to others because I am an Irish student. Like in my last video on Trinity College Dublin, if you'd like to see that video, definitely check it out. I will be leaving the times of different sections of this video in the description and in the comments, so it is easier for you to navigate in case you want to jump to a specific part of the application process or anything I'm going to be talking about. First of all, what is the dual BA program? You've stumbled across this video and you've no idea what I'm talking about. Well, you're in luck because I give this spiel so often. The dual BA program between Trinity College Dublin and Columbia University is a 4-year program in which you spend 2 years at each university, so 2 years at Trinity, 2 years at Columbia, and by the end of the degree you will get 2 degrees. Hence why it's called the dual BA program, the Bachelor of Arts degrees to be exact. It is a very new program. It officially began in 2018. There were some pilot students from Trinity that transferred over to Columbia before that, and also Columbia does have dual BA programs with Sciences Po and City University of Hong Kong, which have been going on for longer. But for Ireland and for Trinity, it's a very new thing. Why do the dual BA program? For me, I really wanted to do it because I was really intrigued by the prospect of studying in another country, but also really liked Trinity College Dublin. Like, I was going to apply there anyway. When I first applied, there were only 4 subjects available, but now there are more, and I'm gonna let you know what they are. There's Classics, Ancient History and Archaeology, there's English Studies, European Studies, Film, History, History of Art and Architecture, Middle Eastern and European Languages and Cultures, Geoscience and Neuroscience. So they're the subjects that you begin with on your dual BA journey when you first go to Trinity. No matter where you're from, everyone in your dual BA admitted class will begin at Trinity and spend 2 years and then go over to Columbia. So everyone begins at Trinity and you start with those subjects, and your majors can change when you go to Columbia. They might get more specific, we may change majors, you know, it depends on the subject you choose. For me, for example, English, like there's no other pathway to take. My major in Columbia is also English, but for example, European Studies, you might change your major to a certain language or politics or history, you know, there's different pathways depending on the subject you choose. So 8 years of work in 4 years, it is possible, because what they do is you're transferring some credits from Trinity over to Columbia and vice versa, and all to make sure that you have done enough to receive 2 degrees. There are also extra subjects and extra projects to do to make up for the 2 degrees as well. It really depends on the subject you choose. Trinity is very much a school where you pick a subject and you stick with it the whole way through. You can do electives to broaden your experience as well. But in Columbia, you do pick a major eventually. If you do the 4 years in Columbia, you pick a major eventually, but you also have to do other subjects to fulfill the liberal arts education that they have there. Those subjects are part of the core. So there's, for example, there's art humanities, music humanities, there's science subjects and quantitative reasoning subjects to fulfill. So you have the opportunity to fulfill some of those core requirements and some subject requirements with your own transcripts from high school or from your time in Trinity to ease the workload. So that's what I've been doing. Like, I did 2 electives, for example, and a language this past year in Trinity, so I can tick off some of the core requirements. But that's just a short summary of the dual BA program. There's a lot more information available on the official website. Make sure to check that out. There's also information on there about the application process, but if you would like to know a little bit about my own experience applying, then keep watching. So December 2017, picture this. I think I was in my nana's house and my sister was just on Facebook and she sees an ad for a program called the dual BA and says, Jane, this thing that Trinity is doing with Columbia University in New York, they seem to have the subject you're interested in, which is English. And I go, oh, fascinating. And the applications for the program like started in August, but they weren't fully advertised in Ireland, and maybe other countries, I don't know, but in Ireland they weren't fully advertised until December. The application deadline was February 1st. And this was like the end of December as well, it's like Christmas time. But I had a very short amount of time to make a decision about applying, and I did decide to apply. Please keep in mind that that was December 2017. I applied in 2018, which was the first official year that it opened. So a lot of this process might be different how the process goes now, but I thought it would still be useful to share what my experience was like, because I'm sure a lot of it is still quite the same. Because it is more established now and probably more organized, it will be better. So don't worry if I'm saying I had to do the SATs in the middle of my mocks. Don't worry about that. So yes, saw the ad in December 2017, decided to go after I went to an information session, which I think was in early January. I was sold on it. I was like, I'm gonna go for it and apply. I might get in, might not. Let's just go for it. And I think that's just the attitude you have to do with these things. You know, there's no harm in applying for it. You know, you kind of have to believe in yourself, but also think it's not the end of the world if you don't get it. You know what I mean? So the application process. You fill out a form. Can't remember exactly all the details in the form. I might have had to have submitted a CV. Maybe now they're both combined into the one thing, the CV and the application form. I think someone has asked me before about extracurriculars and how important they are. And naturally, when it comes to applying to anything from a job to a college, extracurriculars will be important, but it doesn't mean you have to have those particular extracurriculars. Whatever extracurriculars you've done, you highlight them on your CV in a certain way that helps you come across as an engaged student, and you're committed to student life, but you're also committed to your academics. You know, it really depends on how you show what you've done rather than what you actually have done, if that makes sense, throughout the application, not just in this form or in the CV part, but in everything. Another person has asked before about grades, how important they are, like, and if you have to submit transcripts and things. The transcripts I remember submitting were like for my mock exams, which were, if like I'm from Ireland, so they were like in the February of my final year, those mock exams, but also my Christmas exams, I think my 5th year summer exams. Quite a few exam grades were submitted, and eventually when I was accepted into it, they did ask for my actual leaving cert results too, when I got those results in the August of 2018. Please take some time to pause and read this. This has the details of subjects you need to have a passing grade for, and the following 2 screenshots are certain grade requirements for certain courses, so please keep these in mind, and these are all on the JuleBA website. If you are an Irish student or a European student, that your leaving cert points or your grades from the IB, from the back, from the A-levels, they're very important for this program. Some people might think because it's kind of an Americanized program and a bit like the application process has the interview and the essays, you still need those points, those grades. You're applying to 2 universities, Trinity and Columbia. So Trinity does require CAO, the CAO application. Someone asked me before, like, do they even look twice at your application if you didn't get straight A's? It's not all about academia. Academia is very important, but you don't need straight A's. I didn't get straight A's all my life. I was a very good student in secondary school though. I did very well. I didn't get like perfect grades and everything. It's also important to show your resilience and that you're hardworking. But another thing to think about is that you should be ambitious in getting good grades, and to show that you're ambitious in getting good grades in college, and you should be anyway. But definitely show that in your application process, but also that you're ambitious in getting an interesting career in the future. Like, I'm pretty sure they ask you what kind of career path you're interested in. I think back then I was saying something like journalism or something along business lines, which is not that far from what I still want now. Even if you have absolutely not a notion what you want to do in the future, just have a few ideas down in your head on paper. They're looking for people that are future oriented, even if that future right now is very scary. If you're not as confident in some grades you've received and you feel it may damage your application process, I wouldn't make that stop you from applying. While this program is about academia, it is also about who you are as a person. You know, they're looking for students that are interested in an international college experience. They want students who think will excel in this program, not just in their academia, but in college life in general, in both universities. So what I've covered so far, there's the online application form, letters of recommendation, there's your transcripts. So now I am going to talk about the admission essay. For my application process back in 2018, I had to submit 2 essays. But since I have done a little bit of research and looked up on the JuleBA website what the current application process is, it seems you only have to submit one. So I had to submit 2 essays. One was this general personal statement kind of style of an essay, and it was basically asking me, why do I want to apply to the Dual BA program? I remember the word international being very important, like that was in the question. Oh yeah, and it also asked you to incorporate why you're interested in the subject you're choosing. It really does depend on what subject you're doing and what like your own interests are. Like, make sure to make your essay personal. So the other essay was, I think I was given a quote by Euclid, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and it was something about failure. I think the quote was something like, there is no royal road to geometry. I don't know if they've stuck with that quote since then. The essay was about failure, so you have to think about something first in your life and relate it to failure. My best advice for the essays is to make sure you're answering the question. It is a cheesy piece of advice, but be yourself, you know, don't lose your own voice. And it's hard to know whether you have a voice, but you do have a voice, you know. Talk about what you think is your best version of yourself. Exhibit why you want to go there, but also why they would want you. Another thing for the essay question, no matter what it is to think outside the box. Try and make your application stand out and unique. It's hard to know when you don't know what others are doing for the application process. That is so fair. Try and just bring your best foot forward. Just whatever your best attempt is, that is the best attempt you can do. Someone has also asked me before, does admissions look for signs that you have international interest? Definitely. Even if the question has changed and doesn't involve international in the answer for this essay, try your best to bring across that you have an international interest. Doesn't mean you have to travel to every country in the world and know 50 different languages, of course not. It just means because this program has an international nature to it, like you're studying in 2 different countries. Like, you may be from one of those countries, you may be from America, you may be from Ireland, that doesn't matter. No matter where you're from, this program has an international layer to it. So try and bring across in whatever part of the application process, the interview, the essay, the application forms, try and show that you have an international interest. But now let's talk about the SAT. So this was a bit of a stressful part of the application for me, because the advertising for the Dual BA program was quite late in Ireland and possibly other countries. When I first submitted parts of my application, they set up a SAT exam in Trinity's exam hall, which is the little exam hall you see in Normal People. Did you think I'd mention Normal People in this? That's where I sat. I've sat there once in my life, and it was for the SAT, which was, it's not even a Trinity or Irish thing at all. It was completely for the Dual BA program. So they organised this for students that missed the normal usual date for the SAT exams, but you can check all of the international dates on College Board. I'm pretty sure in Ireland, for example, they take place in October and November, or like mainly around the world they take place around then. So luckily, if you're in your final years of study, it's not going to be at a time where you're more under pressure, which might be later in the year. It'll be earlier in the year. But for me, I had to do mine in the middle of my mocks. My mocks were interesting in that I had half my mocks before midterm break and then the rest of my mocks after midterm break. I remember it was actually Saturday after my first week of mock exams. So yeah, I was studying for other subjects like English and biology and business, I think, around then, and then I had to do the SAT. Say I prepared for the SAT. It was a good question, I did, but I'm sure I could have done more to prepare because it was all quite last minute. Everything was last minute for me. Another thing that was interesting is that they set up the old SAT exam for us. This is for, like, I think there were about 10 of us in the room. There were some students, like, and some of them are in the program now, some of them aren't, but like some of them were from different parts in Europe, some of them from England, and some of them from Ireland. So they gave us the pre-2016 SAT. How did I prepare? I just did a bunch of past papers. Like, I don't know how many, I didn't do them all, but I did a lot. I wanted to give that context to show that, like, I did prepare for the SAT, but not as much as like people normally would, because I didn't have as much time, as much warning to prepare for it. I did past papers, I did all that I could and sat it, and to this day I have absolutely not a notion of what I got. No idea. Only Columbia kept my SAT results because I was only doing the SAT for Columbia. I wasn't doing it for other college applications, because you might be interested in applying to other colleges in America. So you will, I'm sure when you do them, the normal College Board set exams in October and November, you will get your SAT score, or ACT. ACT is also cool. So yes, your experience will be a lot more controlled. I would definitely prepare for it as much as you can anyway, like, and trying to get a good score in it. No matter what you're doing, no matter you're applying to other colleges or just applying to Dual BA, do your best. And I think because you won't be as stressed as I was in the middle of my mocks, you will hopefully have more of a chance to prepare well for them. Some questions about the SAT or ACT. Are these exams held regularly in Ireland? Again, check the College Board website. Do you feel studying for them put pressure on you as regards studying for the LC at the same time? Yes, but only because I did them, they happened near my mocks, which won't happen for you. For this program, can you do individual subject tests, or do you have to do the SAT exam where it's like a general sort of test?
You have to do the general SAT or ACT test, but if you want to, you can do subject tests as well, but you have to do the general one. You can't just do the subject tests alone.
So they are all the parts of the application process for the dual BA, and you submit them and wait to hear back from them about an interview. And I think I heard about my interview, was it in February? I think it was in March, like that my interview was going to take place. I was able to pick a date, and my interview was in Trinity. I think depends on where you live. Let's say you live in America, your interview would be in Columbia. If you live in Ireland, it would be in Trinity. If you're abroad, I think you have the option to go over to whatever country's closer, but you can also do it online. Also, with the pandemic happening, who knows what will happen next year for the application process, so keep that in mind. There may be a lot of Zoom conversations happening, but back to 2018, you had that option. I, of course, live in Ireland, so I went to Trinity. So my Trinity representative was Professor Darrell Jones from the School of English, and my Columbia representative was Jessica Sorrells-Dinzik, who is an Associate Dean of International Programs at Columbia. My interview was very interesting. I think I touched it before on a previous video, but it was, I think, about 15 minutes long. I remember being asked, just in general, like, introduce yourself, tell me about yourself, but they also asked me why I was interested in the dual BA program. Most of the interview was about English and about literature. Why do you like English? Why do you want to study English? And I kind of wanted to go back to the beginning of it all. And I brought up Jacqueline Wilson. This Jacqueline Wilson, like the tween author. To be honest, I really did love her writing. Like, she was a writer that really got me into reading. Darrell Jones was like, my daughters love her, and we talked about Jacqueline Wilson, it was great, and Tracy Beaker, all that. That was just me being my honest self. I also talked about like female authors in literature in general and their representation, which was very interesting. It sounds like a daunting thing, and I remember thinking, God, am I answering this right? Like, they're asking for my opinion on like something that I had thought about, but not as much, you know. It was challenging. Like, the interview is meant to challenge you, as any interview is. They want to put you on the spot, but it's just about how you think about the questions and how you adapt to them. Most people have asked like, what kind of questions do they ask in the interview? It depends on your subject. Pretty sure they focus on the subject and why you want to apply to dual BA in the interview. It's only 15 minutes, which does sound in a way like a long time, but it flies. I honestly was in and out. I was like, did that happen? I felt like I came out and I was like, what even happened? I don't remember what I said. Make sure that you are ready to talk about your subject, and you should be, because if you're applying for a certain subject, you should have a particular interest in that subject. I recommend that, especially for this, even for this application process, because they will not test you on the subject, but they will test your passion on the subject. Yeah, I guess I did okay in the interview because I got in, which was amazing. I remember it was the end of March. I was expecting to hear in the first week of April back from them, but I got this email saying that there was an update to my application status on the website, and I went in. It said I got in. It was so exciting. Except, keep in mind, European applicants, maybe not all European applicants, but mainly Irish applicants from the UK as well. Just because you get in March doesn't mean you're in fully yet, because you still have to do your leaving cert, your exams, and to get your grades into the CAO application, so that you're in for sure. For the lucky Americans, they get to know for sure in April. If you're from a country where exams happen later in the summer, or like you don't know your grades for a while, you won't know until later on. So I found out in August of 2018 that I got in for sure. I had to wait a good few months to know. I'm now going to answer some questions on the dual BA in general, but very quickly, one question that was asked was what's the story with accommodation for dual BA students. Accommodation is guaranteed for dual BA students, so you will definitely be able to apply for housing in both Trinity and Columbia. I will cover in a video on the international experience at Trinity what accommodation is like there. I'm not that far from Dublin, so I didn't stay in student accommodations, so I'll be sharing interviews from some friends of mine who stayed in halls, what their experience is like. Halls is like first year accommodation. I have not yet gone to Columbia. I don't know anything about the accommodation there, but I'm sure it's great. Come to this question. This question I am asked quite often, and it's not my favorite question. What is the tuition like, basically? And for an Irish student, you pay the normal Trinity Irish student fees for your first 2 years at Trinity, but you pay the American fees for third and fourth year, which is not ideal, but It's the way it is. And if you are an international student, you pay the international student fee at Trinity, and then for Columbia, I think everyone's fees in Columbia are the same, like whether you're an international student or not. Hopefully if you are eligible, you can apply for financial aid. The best thing to do is to contact the financial aid team through the Dual BA website. Kylie, who is actually in the Dual BA class of 2024, she asked me before, as a Dual BA student, do I feel separated or am I generally treated like a regular Trinity student? I definitely don't feel separated. There is that advantage in my case that I am an Irish student, so it might in a way be easier for me to fit in. But there are a bunch of international students in Trinity. It is a very international campus, and so is Columbia. Of course I've never gone, but I already know from this project I'm in at the moment, which is called the Global Columbia Collaboratory, I can already tell how global Columbia's campus is. To be specific as well, like you aren't just with your Dual BA classmates, they are with the other Trinity students in those courses. No one really knows you're a Dual BA student until you say it. You really do feel like a student of the university you're in. Yeah, I think that's everything. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more. There is so much more coming. I have many more ideas. Make sure to keep an eye out for my international student experience at Trinity video. I'm interviewing some of my friends from different countries all about how they applied and what it's been like to study in Ireland and in Trinity specifically. So that's coming soon. Make sure to subscribe for that as well. And yeah, if you have any more questions about the Dual BA, please leave them below or DM me, anything like that. I am more than happy to help. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all soon. Bye!